My name is Daniel Scott with UDAYA.com, and this is Average Yoga, a series of tutorials specifically designed for people who don't do yoga yet. Take what you want, leave what you don't, go at your own pace, and learn to build your practice from the ground up. Standing single leg balances, so cool, so cool. Well, they can be. A lot of times single leg balances are the bane of many people with tight hips and hamstrings existence because, I got to stand on one leg. It's hard enough to stand up on 2 feet. Believe me, I get it. I'm kind of clumsy. Pro tip, most people are. So don't judge yourself on what other people look like when they try to stand on 1 foot. This is about feeling good in your own thing. So let's just hop right into it. What you want to do in order to stand on 1 foot is to feel comfortable standing on 2. So look down at your feet. There they are. They're at the ends of your legs. Big toes pointing forward. Now, if you take your feet together, you'll notice something very interesting about your step. If you take your big toes together and you take the heels together, the inside of the feet are parallel there. Even though they're touching, they point forward and back. The outside of your feet have an angle to it, right? Now, if you take the heels apart and keep the big toes together, the outside edges can become parallel, but the inside edges, they start angling in. So it's very interesting to think about what you're doing with your feet, how your feet are connecting to the ground before you take 1 foot away. Now, for a balance, you're going to want to be able to use those things at the end of your foot that are called toes. They're the foot equivalent of fingers. Now, it's really hard. If you try walking around without using your toes, you realize how challenging it is. If you just try to walk like this, you have very little to work with on the grounds, but those toes give you a lot of extra articulation. So from here, what you want to work on is finding weight not just in the back of the foot, but towards the front of the foot as well. So take your feet, take 1 foot for now, take the heel, step the ball of the foot down, take the big toe joint, and then spread the toes out as wide as you can. And see how much space you can get in between each toe. Now, with my weight back past my heel, and if I bend the knee, I start pouring weight into the heel, towards the ball of the foot, towards the toes. And then if the knee stays bent, the thighs stay active. Now, using that second foot, you can slide it in there, maybe hip distance apart, heel, big toe, and then sliding the other toes out, and you get these really big hobbit-looking feet. Now, when you first start doing this practice, your toes don't spread too much. Over time, you can really get more articulate with how wide your toes can spread. So being able to ground those big toes down and spread the toes out from there, if you even want to go down and kind of spread the toes out, even better. Now that you feel like the feet are super active, work towards pouring weight towards the toes and then away from the toes. Towards the toes with the hips moving towards the front of the room and then away from the toes so the hips move towards the back of the heels. You'll notice as the weight goes back, you lose balance because there's no toes in the back of the foot. So tiny bend in the knee and try to do the same thing. You'll find with that tiny bend, not a huge bend, but just an unlocking of the knee, you're going to have a lot more muscular control in your thighs and in your calves to use those feet. Now, this is going to help when you start going into 1 foot. So shake out the legs, take them about hip distance apart, heels under knees, under hips on both sides, big toes down, spread the toes wide, and begin to pour weight from side to side. With a tiny bend in each knee, you're going to realize as you put weight, not just from forward to back, but from side to side, you start using your big toe and your pinky toe very strongly into the ground. This starts waking up the feet. Moving from side to side, front to back. It's these small movements, you can even use your arms to keep balance. They're going to help you stay focused on what's going on the ground as you begin to take things away from it. So, once you've found all the points of your feet, try to find that nice center point of your weight dropping down into the center of your right foot. So put a tiny unlock into the right knee and then begin to slowly peel the left foot off the ground and take the knee in line with the hip. Now the knee in line with the hip isn't up to the chest. In fact, where it is just trying to find the knee 90-degree angle from the torso to the thigh and then also from the calf to the thigh. So if you can hang out here, interlace your fingers under your thigh, shoulders down the spine, and try to lean back gently so the chest is lifted and that you try to find all the weight in that bottom right foot. So you feel the toes active, you feel the arch active, you feel the right knee is slightly unlocked so you can use those thighs again, those calves. And then if you want to start rocking back and forth and side to side, you'll find, oh gosh, the balance becomes either more or less challenging. So find that part that feels really good for you, shoulders down the spine, navel draws in, and simply hold this. If this is too easy, begin to extend that floating leg. So the heel pushes out from the hip, but at the same time, the ankle flexes and draws the hip, the thigh bone back into the hip socket. And then if you want to keep the hands under the leg here, this is perfect. Take a breath or two, breath in, breath out, bend the knee, and then slowly place the foot back down. Toes, ball of the foot, heel. Shake it out. Go on to the second side. But before you just pick the right foot up, find that right spot where you feel the left foot activate fully. Look down, in fact. You might find turning the toes slightly out or slightly in, depending on how it feels in your knee and your ankle, is going to help you make that balance. So, tiny bend in the left knee, rock from side to side, front to back until you feel a nice balance on that left foot, and then begin to slowly pick the right leg off the ground, knee in line with hip, heel just directly up under the knee, interlace the fingers under that right thigh, and then begin, shoulders down the spine, navel drawing in, begin to simply lift the gaze and extend your right leg in the same direction as you're looking. Flex that ankle if you can. Extend through the heel and at the same time draw the right thigh bone into the right hip. If you start shaking, well, that's okay. Think about your toes. Think about your foot on your left leg. Bend the left knee slightly. Maybe that gives you more space. Breath in, breath out a few times. Be very articulate as you bend the knee and place that foot back down. Whew. Now, in the beginning, single leg balances, if you have tight hips and hamstrings, are just trying to hold on to the leg without dying and falling on your face. But over time, you're going to find being able to move gently into that spot on your foot that feels good and then lifting that other leg up becomes a lot easier. So instead of trying to think about taking the hands under the thigh, think about what you're doing in the supporting leg to keep the upper leg floating. So a tiny bend in that knee makes things a lot easier to access the muscles to support the bones. So you can play with extending and bending. You can even play with bending that standing leg more and moving the torso forward so you can extend that leg behind you. So think about as you move more articulately, the weight that you put forward has to be counterbalanced somewhere. So as you put weight into a standing leg and as you lift that floating leg up, you might find it's easier to gently lean the shoulders back past the hips as the leg goes forward. Similarly, if you begin to lean forward, bending that standing leg helps you put the floating leg behind you to counterbalance like a seesaw. The hips over the standing leg is the lever point. The shoulders forward, the leg back helps it make it a lot easier. Otherwise, there's a lot of weight going forward and you have to rely on just the toes to hold you up. So all these moving parts come together to create balance. So rocking back and forth, side to side, putting weight into you're going to find one leg is easier to balance on the other. So don't forget to work both sides. Now, when it comes to trying to do something like a foot to hand pose, let's say we're going to put the weight onto the right foot. We draw the left knee into the chest. You're going to reach down. If you can grab the heel, great. If you can grab the foot, great. But if you can't fully extend, don't. So we're going to take this to the side profile. The most important part of trying to find a balance at first is not trying to go to the extension of the pose. The most important part is to find your balance at every part up to the fullest extension. Because if you just try to jump to the end, you're missing all of the journey to get there. So to show, hands to the thighs, hands to the front of the knee, hands to the calf, hands to the ankle, hands to the foot, and then start to extend. If you can't extend because you don't have that length, you can start from the ankle, start from the knee, start from the shin, and go there. Most important, I keep saying most important, it's really important to not try to do a pose that you're not ready for, but to really learn how to build up to the pose that you want to get to and make that your practice. Now, if you need to extend your arms and you can't get there, a lot of times people say, oh, grab a strap, throw it over the foot, and just hope for the best. And you'll see the props are very helpful, but at the same time, if you don't bring awareness to really what the challenge is in this pose. It's not the lifted leg, it's the standing leg. So by just putting this prop on the foot, you find, oh my gosh, I'm losing connection to the most important part of the pose, which is simply my connection to the ground. So make sure you feel grounded before you get the prop involved. So if you take the strap to the foot, that's fine. Extend out, ground down, lift up in order to do that. It's important to note, one last time to say how important things are, it's important to note one thing. Yoga didn't happen in one day. This was not just someone going, oh, here are all the postures. This took hundreds, if not thousands of years of people practicing nonstop trial and error to make this practice what it is today. And you are just another one of those people trying to figure this out for everyone else to learn past that. So if you find something that works for you, do it. If it turns out that that's not good for you, you'll know soon enough because your body is a pretty good indicator of what works and what doesn't. So listen to yourself. You're the best teacher you have. So, how'd all that land for you? Hopefully, it sparked a fire. And if you're looking to fan the flame, head over to UDAYA.com and enter the promo code AVERAGE Joga. You're going to have access to a lot more classes from myself and a host of amazing teachers from around the world of all shapes, styles, and colors. By all means, let this serve as a great foundation to build a home practice on that you can have for the rest of your life. Enjoy.